morning. I'm Brett Fitzgerald, and I'll be your moderator today. Before we get started, let's go over the rules. You will each get 2 minutes to introduce yourselves, and then we will proceed with the questions. For each question, you will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to respond. You will also each have the opportunity for one rebuttal today, with a 90-second limit on that as well. After our questions, of which there are 6, you will each get a 2-minute closing statement. Thank you very much, and let's get started. Ms. Blockson, I'll start with you this morning.
My name is Carla Blockson, and I am running and serving for the honor of serving District 2 Commissioner because Lake Worth Beach is at a crossroads right now, and I want to be part of the solution. This is my 25th anniversary of living in the city of Lake Worth. During that time, I've served on the Electric Utilities Board, the Community Relations Board, Project Graduation for the Children, and I am the newly appointed Commissioner for District 2. These experiences have taught me to build consensus and make sure that I honor everyone's thoughts. I am an independent thinker, and I believe in thinking outside the box. I have a sense of diversity, and I bring that to the commission. I think it's very important that all people are represented in the city of Lake Worth. My degree in urban studies has helped me to navigate the complex business of running a city government. I've met with all department heads in the last month and asked tough questions and learned a lot. I am prepared to continue moving Lake Worth Beach forward.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you very much. Mr. Oblander.
Well, hello, Lake Worth Beach. My name is Ryan Oblander, and I'm running for City Commission of District 2 as well. And I want to thank the NAPC for taking the time to make this production, to make the candidate debate forum possible in this format so that you can watch it at your home, in your hand, in your office, on your desk, or in your car while you're picking up your kids. Remember, don't text and drive. Also, if you probably search your inbox, you might see that you'll have a couple of emails that have my name on them already because I serve on the board of the NAPC as the communications secretary, and I'm in charge of communications and relaying important information. You can pause the video at any time and check for yourself. If you haven't seen any of my emails, that either means that you're not on your neighborhood association's email list, or you're brand new to the city, so please reach out to your neighborhood associations and get on their email lists. And if you are on the list and you're not getting them, then you need to follow up with your neighborhood associations and get with them because they're slacking. But all jokes aside, I moved to Lake Worth Beach in 2005 with my wife, and we were instrumental in forming the Sunset Ridge Neighborhood Association back in 2006. I have served as president of that group since 2008. So a long time. I know a lot of the other neighborhood association presidents. I know all of the elected officials. I know the city manager and heads of departments of staff, and we all communicate well together and work well together. Communication is key. I have noticed that communication has been an issue recently, and that we need to work on this. The public has a voice. You, the listener here watching this video, you have a voice. You can speak at city meetings, you can speak at road bonds, you can speak at the FDOT presentations, and you can speak at your neighborhood associations. So I implore you, reach out to your neighborhood associations because strong neighborhoods, strong community, strong city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Oblander. And Mr. McVoy, good morning.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Christopher McVoy. I'm running because I have a firm belief in democracy and a belief that democracy only works if regular citizens stand up and serve for a certain amount of time for their city. I'm also running because I believe in our unusual, quirky, diverse city. It's unique in South Florida and it's worth defending. I bring a combination of strong Lake Worth perspective and strong international perspective to the job. I've been 20 years in Lake Worth. I've also lived in Mexico, Costa Rica, France, the Netherlands, and Germany. And by speaking languages in those cases, I've been able to have a good sense of how different cultures solve different problems. I'm a scientist. I came to Florida to work on Everglades restoration, became an expert in that. My master's is from the University of Florida. My PhD is from Cornell University. I authored with colleagues a book that became the definitive source on what the Everglades were originally like. My volunteer activities, as you might imagine, are about sharing knowledge. I was invited by the League of Women Voters as a panelist on climate change. I've taken students out into the Everglades, some of them for their first time canoeing, first time actually standing in the water in the Everglades. I teach students about microcomputers. I've taught yoga as a volunteer teacher for 20 years to seniors. And I designed and built the Lake Worth Science Mobile. Some of the things that I've done in the past is simply speaking up for residents, for fairness, for facts. I was often referred to as a voice of reason on the commission and a watchdog to make sure that things were going in the best interests of residents. I graduated from the University of Miami's Leaders of Excellence program, excellent training for being a better commissioner, helped preserve Lake Worth Beach as a public park, and achieved our federal solar-friendly designation for Lake Worth Beach as a first step, partial step in renewable energy for our city. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, before we start questions, I just want to remind you have a minute and a half each to answer, and you have one rebuttal to use this morning at your discretion, if you so choose. Are we ready to start questioning? Okay. All right, Ms. Blockson, I'll start with you this morning. First question is, the city of Lake Worth Beach seems to be funding the CRA without the CRA reciprocating by providing transparency in their planning and operations. This makes the taxpayer wonder whether the city is a good steward of how our tax dollars are being spent by the CRA. How would you correct the current relationship between the city of Lake Worth Beach and the CRA?
I think the CRA has done a good job as far as following the state statute with what their job is for redevelopment and bringing infill and projects to the city. I think they've done a poor job of being transparent and making sure that people understand their mission and their limitations. I think that we should have open meetings. We should look at the people that are appointed to the board. If it's time to change the board, we can do so. The CRA serves at the discretion of the City Commission. However, the City Commission is not in the business of real estate. We have to make sure that they are responsive to all the citizens, and particularly the citizens that share their boundaries. It's very important that they have a voice, and they may have a position on the CRA. You know, we have to look at all avenues to make sure that everyone is included and everyone's voice is heard.
Thank you. Any rebuttals? Okay.
Are we each answering the question, or how does it work?
Yes, he's answering the question.
Okay. Well, I actually printed out the website for the CRA, and if you go there yourself, you can see the same. The CRA is committed to smart growth, a concept that ensures the board acts with input from citizens, local leaders, and the business community. This is the basis for our commitment to the citizen-friendly master plan process, which we believe will give Lake Worth a roadmap for future development and conservation. Now, if you ever try to look up any information about the CRA's budget, meetings, and whatnot, you get prompted with notices to make a public records request, which is unacceptable in these times. Everything should be made available online. The city website was able to do it to be ADA compliant. I think the CRA can too. The meetings should be at least Zoom virtual meetings. They should be accessible to the public. Public input should be accepted. It should be welcomed. And there are multiple processes that public input is supposed to be accepted, especially when talking to developers. So I think that they have a little bit more work to do in terms of a public perception transparency issue as well. But overall, in terms of their overall plan and their vision for the city and redevelopment, I think they are doing a fine job. They might have some procedural missteps that have gotten them tripped up a little bit recently, but if you look at the master plan and stick with the plan, in 10 to 15 years' time, the city is going to be in great shape. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Oblander. And Mr. McVoy.
Thank you for your question about the CRA. I have a lot of concern about it. I recognize a number of good things that the CRA has worked on, particularly the housing program, large grant that was multi-agency a while back. Great. However, I'm very concerned that the CRA is giving away large amounts of tax money to developers when they could instead be helping homeowners to stay in their homes, avoid foreclosures. My biggest issue with the CRA is that there's been sort of a feeling that they should ask the public for, give them 3 minutes of approval once a development is already chosen. In my mind, that's a huge mistake. Our downtown is the thing that sets us apart. It's different from other parts of South Florida. Protecting that takes a lot of thought, a lot of active public input. There should be workshops with the public, professionally facilitated, and that should happen before any RFPs are put out, not after. It's not fair to developers to come at the last minute and say, oh, well, it turns out people didn't like it. The CRA for redeveloping L&M Street between downtown and First Street, a huge area, they notified people within 400 feet. Well, that doesn't make sense in Lake Worth. Everybody in Lake Worth has a concern about how our downtown feels, works, and how it works as an economic attractor. That takes a very different approach than what we've been doing.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to our next question. Mr. Oblander. More than 51% of our city's budget goes to PBSO. Yet the numbers on crime seem to remain the same. How would you work with PBSO to ensure that Lake Worth Beach residents are getting what they pay for?
Good question. The problem is we don't know what we're paying for. The PBSO budget is kind of kept under wraps, so we just have negotiations and that's that. We would like to see more community policing. There are areas that are still riddled with crime on a day-to-day basis, and that's usually around the mid-downtown areas, the Royal Point Siena neighborhoods and the southern neighborhoods. My neighborhood, Sunset Ridge, recently had an uptick in shootings, and some of them might have been domestic-related and isolated incidents, but as an overall indicator for the city, we are seeing some crime levels increase. So recently, PBSO Captain Bayer realized that we needed more community policing. He authorized some sergeants and deputies to attend our neighborhood meetings virtually. So while they're in their squad cars, they can actually give us updates on our individual neighborhood associations. And I think with the road-mounted patrols, ATVs, Polarises, foot patrols, bicycle patrols, things like that within the neighborhoods, and quite frequently, we should see a reduction in crime and quality of life issues. Also with our parks, we got to make sure that we use our parks because a lot of activity goes down at our parks. If we're not using our parks, criminals and other people who want to do illicit activities, drug use and whatnot, they know this. So if we actually use our resources wisely, we should be able to reduce some of these issues. Also on Dixie Highway, the empty businesses and storefronts are just breed crime. And so we need to see more small businesses go into those units and have a thriving, walkable Dixie Highway corridor. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. McVoy.
Thank you. Yes, you're quite right that a very large chunk of our budget goes to public safety, and public safety is clearly critical, both for fire and police. However, I would say that we need to look at that very carefully and look for opportunities to improve. It's state law that sheriffs do not have to reveal their budgets all across the state. That's nothing that we have any control over, unfortunately. But since we contract with the sheriff, we would have an opportunity to write stop-go features into the contract and performance measures, bookmarks of things that we check for and say, is this happening? If not, do we need to have a course correction in how we're doing it? I'm all for community policing. At one time, we had a lot of folks on foot and on bicycle out in communities, getting to know the neighborhoods, getting to know people in the neighborhoods. We seem to have gotten well away from that. There are also things that the police doesn't particularly like to do, and maybe it's not the best use of their resources. Dealing with homeless, dealing with some of the drug issues might be better done and less expensively by divvying that up in other ways. So I think we should be creative about looking at it, and we should definitely build in different things into the contract to help make sure that that happens.
Thank you. Ms. Blockson.
While public safety has taken a large portion of our budget, we have benefited from having PBSO as our provider. We receive services that we normally could not afford when we were a standalone department. We have helicopters, we have SWAT, we have better investigated teams. I am very pleased with the amount of traffic that I'm seeing on the streets. I do see the community policing benefiting us. We have an officer to come to our neighborhood association meetings, of which I am president, and we're able to ask him questions and ask him what trends are going on in the city. I also want the sheriff's office to be more responsive to the citizens' concerns. I don't want people to feel that they can't contact PBSO, and I want PBSO to always be there for them. As we go into negotiations, while they may have a standard price for their services, we certainly can look at the budget or look at what they're providing and see if there's any room that we could move to do more community policing and have them work with the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you.
I get so nervous.
All right. Dr. McVoy. The city charter has not been fully reviewed in almost half a century. In the last year, there have been several recommendations to conduct a citizen review of the charter and to report status and findings to the Lake Worth Beach commissioners and mayor. However, it appears that these recommendations are being ignored. What is your opinion of conducting a formal charter review?
I have no problem with the idea. It seems like a good housekeeping, just a good government sort of thing. If we haven't looked at it in that long, half a century, it's quite conceivable that there are bits and pieces in there that don't belong, that are no longer relevant, that there are things that need to be in there that haven't been in the past. So I have no problem with it. I would, put some effort into forming that citizen committee, people who have had long-term experience with the city, come from a range of backgrounds, represent a range of different parts of the city, so that you get a good solid basis for doing the review. And if a review was done, I would support it happening, and I would certainly support taking it seriously and looking at it if I was elected to the commission. And I'd recommend that the commission, whoever's on there, looks at it seriously. So it's a good idea.
Thank you. Ms. Blockson.
Anything that has not been reviewed in over 100 years certainly needs looking at. At the last commission meeting, the commission voted to have a charter review committee formed. So this is in the plan. We do intend to do it. And I think that it's very important that citizens have input into that. So each commissioner will be choosing someone to serve on that board, and they will look at the charter and decide any changes that need to be made. So we did agree to that, and I think that as we think times have changed, Airbnbs, community policing, we have so many different ideas that we didn't have 100 years ago, so we certainly need to look at all avenues to make sure that all citizens are served.
Thank you. Mr. Oblander.
Yes, another good question. If you are on Coffee with a Commissioner Wednesday mornings, this topic came up months ago. I've been on almost every single one for a better part of a half a year now, and when they had them live at the bookshop that unfortunately closed down. But there are a group of active citizens who were concerned about the charter due to Commissioner Robinson's suggestion. They took it upon themselves to meet independently and start looking at the charter. One of the issues I saw was actually kind of funny, like no swearing on city property and things like that. But there are things in there that need to be reviewed and looked at. A formal charter review committee, they have sunshine laws they have to adhere to, so it'll be a little bit difficult, but it can be done. They'll be working with the city attorney to make sure everything that they discuss and look at has an attorney, approving it, giving it a rubber stamp. But it's kind of funny, in 2018, Commissioner Maxwell was the one who said at the last NAPC debate candidate forum that he would be pushing for a charter review, and here we are in 2021 and it hasn't happened yet. So I feel that with the citizen board reviewing the charter, looking for things that could bring us into modern times is absolutely necessary. I just hope that whatever commissioners' appointment processes look like, that they don't try to slip in things that fill personal agendas, and it's for the greater good of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving ahead. Ms. Blockson. With Palm Beach County, single-family home prices increasing 12.4% year after year, and the median home price being over $355,000 now, Many families have had great gains in their investment. In certain areas of our city, homeowners are experiencing less than half that growth due to slumlord tactics and under-policing. What policies would you implement to help increase the home prices in those areas in Lake Worth Beach?
Home prices in Lake Worth Beach will not rise until we address certain issues, such as better schools, better roads, better amenities. We have the improved electrical distribution. I think that that is going to go a long way as far as making Lake Worth a better place to live. I think that we should enact legislation to say, these are the areas that are not thriving within the city. Let's look at them and do things to make them thrive. Let's make them a vital part of the city and make citizens want to live in Lake Worth. And once we address our school situation, and we have addressed our roads, but once we address our school situation, I think more families will move, and that will change that dynamic.
Thank you. Mr. Oblander.
Can you repeat the question?
Certainly. With With Palm Beach County single-family home prices increasing 12.4% year after year, and the median home price being over $355,000, many families have had great gains in their investment. In certain areas in our city, homeowners are experiencing less than half that gain due to slumlord tactics and under-policing. What policies would you implement to help increase the home prices in Lake Worth Beach?
Okay. So the real estate market is going to be hot because there is a flight from northern states because of the pandemic situation. It's something that we thought originally, with working with realtors and real estate investors, that it was going to be more of a bubble, but it turns out that people are actually moving here. In my personal experience, I know that once families move here because they fall in love with the city of Lake Worth Beach and all it has to offer, once they see the school options, they move. And that's what drives down a lot of these prices, families taking their children and moving away. What we need to do is address the education problem. We need to get boards like the Lake Worth Beach Education Task Force, which I recently joined, to help come up with creative solutions to these problems, to work with the school board, to work with the county, and actually find ways to improve our schools from their C's and D's to A's and B's. And it is possible, and I have options on the table for maybe a city-sponsored dual language umbrella homeschool program to get the parents and the kids in, and so everyone can learn. So with the crime and the slum and the blight and the landlord situation, west of Dixie Highway, I would think, would have more of a problem in this area than east of Dixie Highway, except in the south end. And neighborhoods do need to get involved, work with other community organizations like Healthier Lake Worth Beach and the NAPC, and develop neighborhood watch programs and work with PBSO, community police, and we can all solve these problems together. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. McVoy.
Thank you. Those are interesting statistics on Palm Beach County. I would round out the picture a little bit with, I don't have the statistics right in front of me, but with the point that there is an enormous shortage of affordable housing in Palm Beach County as well. And rising home prices is good if you're just about to sell. It's not quite so helpful if you're paying your taxes every year along that way. That raises them. And it's not so helpful if you're trying to buy. So there are mixed things. The underlying causes that you alluded to as being an issue in home prices definitely need work. One of my interests for a long time is some sort of landlord database, landlord rating program that would let folks let the city put some pressure and the public put some pressure on landlords that are not doing their job, not keeping up their areas. Obviously, improvement to the schools is helpful. I think the elementary schools are doing reasonably well. Teaming with community gardens is great. But there needs to be work in certain neighborhoods for community cleanup, policing, as we've all mentioned, the community policing. I know personally of people who are currently renting and would like to buy, but do not feel safe in the neighborhoods. And those are concerns that I want more people buying where they are now to strengthen, because the city can't keep up all those houses. It has to be individual people who are doing it. So anything that can help in that direction, I think, is a positive strengthening of our city.
Thank you. All right. Our next question. Mr. Oblander. With all the new interest from developers in our city and new development projects from the city, as well as having a federally recognized HUB zone area here in Lake Worth Beach, would you be for or against developing a local Lake Worth Beach resident-only SBE participation program for all new development?
Another good question. For all new development, well, I know that the HUB zone that you alluded to would be in the CRA district, and they would be working with the city in order to accumulate properties and to build these projects and to work with developers as well. In terms of resident only, I believe mixed use would be the best use for these areas, shops and homeownership. There could be buildings that are for market rate with a percentage allotment for affordable housing for each project. It could be an incentive or a bonus of sorts. And we do need more of these mixed use buildings all up and down all the corridors, Dixie Highway, Lake and Lucerne, west of Dixie Highway, and also west of 95. South Federal Highway, I'm also concerned about. It's not in the HUB zone you referred to. That also would need to be looked at. I know it's not part of the question, but one of my priorities would be to see South Federal Highway get some development as well, and also work with the neighborhood associations and the community to gather their input on what they feel would be the best use for their land. Thank you.
The resident-only part gives me some pause, certainly. This would be Small Business Administration, I assume is the SBE. I note that, to my knowledge, a number of the business owners in Lake Worth currently do not live in Lake Worth, so they would not classify as residents. I'm not sure that it's wise to make that exclusion. I certainly, in general, am in favor of favoring our residents because, I'm representing Lake Worth. So I have some hesitation about the SBE part of it and I mean, not the SBE, but the resident-only portion. Anything that we can do to help encourage many of the small businesses that are already here. We have a number of them west on Dixie, not on Dixie, on Lake and Lucerne, that we seem to be sort of pushing out. I would like to see some analysis of what those small businesses, also on Dixie, what they do economically for the city. I don't think we've analyzed that. We analyzed some of the things that we're more familiar with, some of the things on downtown, but there are a lot of small businesses that serve different parts of the community that I think do quite a bit of business and contribute to the strength of the city. Can that be incorporated into an SBE program and not necessarily restricted to residents? Yes, I think probably could, probably be a good idea.
Thank you. Ms. Blockson.
I'm sorry, would you repeat the question?
Certainly. With all the new interest from developers in our city and new development projects from the city, as well as having a federally recognized HUB zone area here in Lake Worth Beach, would you be for or against developing a local Lake Worth Beach residents-only SBE participation program for all new development?
I would be against having any program that would be limited to Lake Worth residents. I think that Lake Worth residents who apply should have an added weight. They should have a special consideration. But once you begin limiting a program, you also limit the number of people you're going to have, you limit the type of people you're going to have, and the people you are encouraging to move into Lake Worth. I certainly want to have more homeowners and more residents be homeowners in the city of Lake Worth. I think if we had the SPE program, we could certainly do that. We could have some emphasis, but we have to be very careful in the restrictions that we would place on the program because it's going to leave some people out and it's not going to let some people in. So we have to make sure that we're doing what is our intent. And I think that intent would be to have quality people living in the city of Lake Worth. And I certainly think that we do need to do something about our landlord situation in the city of Lake Worth. But I think that should be done by ordinance. And also having people to know what landlords are good ones and what landlords are bad ones, but also to have people be able to speak up and know what their tenant rights are. You know, a lot of our tenants don't know what the landlord can and cannot do. So I think that that should be a focus for the city, to have a bill of tenants' rights, so they'll know that their landlord is really not treating them fairly and who to apply to for relief.
Thank you. All right, our final question. So I'm going to hit a note for a lot of residents here, I think, and I'll start with you, Dr. McVoy. What should be done about the pool at the beach, and do you support a public-private partnership?
Thank you. I've been concerned about the beach for a very long time. I've talked to lots of members of the community who also were concerned, including one family that was willing to move out of Lake Worth because their daughter was involved in swim team at the beach and it just disappeared. I've talked to lots of seniors who used the beach, not the beach, the pool, excuse me. It's a safe place to swim. It's also companionship for other people. I've talked to a number of people who learned to swim in our pool. I've also talked to pool professionals, both when I was on the commission in the past and more recently. I've been assured independently that the pool does not have that prohibitive problems, whether cost or just simply the work, that it could be restored without major obstacles, and so we should. I have no problem with the idea of expanding a bit the type of pool, whether it's waiting areas, whether it's allowing more social usage of the pool, as well as keeping the more traditional swimming aspects of it. I'm very concerned about public-private partnerships. I've been and seen those come and go a number of times. The risk to changing the nature of our public beach and our public pool is, to me, very big. So I would be very cautious and only under some duress would support a public-private partnership.
Thank you.
But before I speak,
Yes, sir.
all right. May I? Yeah, I have an issue with what Mr. McVoy just said about giving away the beach. And it was during a campaign many years ago where he was knocking on doors. He knocked on my door. And part of his campaign platform was, they're selling our beach, they're selling our beach. And you might still see signs today that say, hands off our beach. And that has just been nonsense, total nonsense. The beach is public property. There's no way to sell that without a referendum by the public. And I don't think in any time that we are going to be giving away that land to anybody. I will hold the public-private partnership comments for my actual part. I don't know how this is going to work.
We're going to move on to Ms. Blockson to respond to the question. If you'd like me to repeat it, I will.
Yes.
Wait, do I get the chance to answer the question?
You will?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, sir. Okay. Repeat the question for you. What should be done about the pool at the beach, and do you support a public-private partnership?
I would support adding the pool to a public-private partnership initiative that would also serve the casino, and asking the investor to underwrite the cost of a new pool. I think that a public-private partnership is a good idea. The most important thing about it is making sure that we have the right negotiators for the contract. The commission is not in a position to negotiate a contract for a public-private partnership. I'm sorry. And I think that we would hire a team of negotiators who is familiar with that venture to make sure that the city's long-term needs are addressed. You can't have this partnership without having someone willing to pay for long-term maintenance and make sure that the needed improvements are met. Because at the end of the contract, you would just have a pile of rubble. So a public partnership for the pool and for the casino is an idea worth exploring. We just have to be very careful in how we go about it.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I have 30 seconds.
Yes.
I'm sorry. And in the post-COVID world, we have to make sure that the beach is the beach a core service? If it is a core service, then how do you pay for it? The beach doesn't really pay for itself. The pool doesn't pay for itself. And if the pool doesn't pay for itself, then how are we going to pay for it? And if you increase parking too much, people won't come. So if you add it to a public-private partnership initiative, then we will have more resources to be able to fund the pool.
Thank you.
Mind if I wait for that?
Sure. Sorry about stomping you there, Ms. Blockson. I misread your pause.
It's okay.
Would you like the question repeated?
No, actually, I have this one. I like this question. It's because I have a vision for the pool. Being a family man, I have 2 small children, and my oldest was actually in swim classes at that pool. And I renewed my lessons, and then they closed the pool, and I was eagerly waiting for that pool to reopen. But after listening to all the issues about the pool and the cost prohibitiveness of it, that it's more of an amenity. And we're struggling to pay our bills, and the pool would be nice to have now, but we need to plan for it. I believe we can take some of the money from the penny sales tax and do a master parks plan, and that would include all of our parks, not just the beach ocean complex. I envision, with speaking with professionals, the former director of the Riviera Beach Rec Department, he said it's a no-brainer. We need to do a zero-entry splash pad with a wading pool option. Families would flock from all over the area, especially since it's a beachfront property. We can charge admissions for that, have discounts for residents, and then we can also have a multi-lane lap pool on the side. These things can be done with the proper negotiations and affordability. A public-private partnership, maybe to run the concession stands. I don't know, that would have to be looked into. Anytime the government gets into managing a property, things tend to take a long time and don't end up very well. So there could be benefits to a public-private partnership for certain options at the beachfront complex, especially when it comes to operating a facility like that. Thank you.
And then, Ms. Blockson, do you still have a rebuttal?
Yes. We are in 2021. We are looking to move Lake Worth Beach forward. Having a public partnership that we would have had 20 years ago or 10 years ago is not the same as what we would ask for now. We have people in place to hire the proper people to negotiate the contract, and there's nothing wrong with thinking outside the box. We would be in control with what we are asking in the RFP. We're saying what we want in the public-private partnership. We're not at the mercy of the developer. The developer is coming to us because he thinks that Lake Worth is a great place to invest. But we are asking him to be accountable so that he can invest in our great city. So having a public-private partnership is not a bad thing. It is just an option that we have to be willing to explore.
Thank you. All right, to wrap up today, you will each have 2 minutes to provide some closing statements. And for the sake of continuity, I'm just going to move in the same order as we did this morning. So Ms. Blockson, when you're ready, we'll start with you. 2 minutes.
I'm asking for the citizens' vote in the I'm sorry. I think he has something.
We're getting our timers set up here. So
Oh, okay.
Should we all do a sound check just so everybody good? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I am asking for the citizens' vote in this election on March 9th because I believe in the city of Lake Worth. I was honored to be appointed to the commission at the vacancy of Omari Hardy, and my recent appointment to the commission is the latest chapter in my 24 years of service to the city. But this election isn't ultimately about me. It's about what the citizens want and how they wish to move the city forward. If you believe that citizens on Lake Worth have been left on the sidelines, then I'm asking for your vote. If you believe the city commission should work every day to beat COVID-19, I'm asking for your vote. If you believe that the city commissioners should have office hours to meet with their citizenry, I'm asking for your vote. If you believe that preserving Lake Worth history matters, I'm asking for you to help me support the Gulfstream Hotel. I am asking for your vote. We have a lot of cynicism about and hopelessness with the democracy in our community. We can't move forward without having diversity, having someone willing to listen, having someone willing to think outside the box and take risk. I certainly have invested my time and effort in the city for these past years, serving on many boards and working with many community organizations. But I can't do it alone. I'm asking for your vote, and I'm also asking for the citizens to step up and become a part of the solution and not only complain about the problems. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's okay.
Mr. Oblander.
Okay. Yes, I also am asking for your vote on March 9th, 2021. As a family person and believer of strong neighborhoods, I definitely would be interested in increasing our property values, increasing the ratings of our schools, attracting new business to Dixie Highway and also downtown and west of downtown. There are numerous projects slated to be coming up in the north end of town. I would love to be a part of those. One thing that I'm really invested in is the future of the Northwest Ball Fields. That is the largest piece of undeveloped land in the entire city, and it's right in my neighborhood. And I would love to be at the table for that discussion when anything comes up for that property. I was a former chair of the Electric Utility Advisory Board, and I am strongly invested into green energy choices, the FAU SEMREC partnership for ocean current technology. I believe we can capitalize on that for the city, make ourselves an international tech hub, and invite all people from all over the world to set up in our Park of Commerce or other areas and have a thriving community. We need more mixed-use developments. We need affordable housing in those units. We need a walkable Dixie Highway. We need vibrant downtown, so we need small business support. I believe in small business incubators, other things, maybe shared office spaces where we can help young professionals start their own businesses and maybe even have an entrepreneur training program so we can benefit the entire city of Lake Worth Beach. Community policing is one of the big issues I would have, and make sure that PBSO remains vigilant in their quest for our quality of life issues as well as the major issues. And one thing that hasn't come up yet is our apparent lack of hotels, and our tourism industry is suffering because we don't have any hotels. So I am for vacation rentals to be the stopgap between what we don't have and what we need. The Gulfstream Hotel will be online eventually, but in the meantime, we need to have choices. So thank you very much, and vote for Ryan Oblander.
Thank you. Dr. McVoy.
Thank you. I invite you to choose me as your public servant for my positions, for the tools that I bring to the job, and for dedication to speak out for all. Some of my positions would be to get government in this city back on track, open, respectful, and responsive. Bring back a first-rate energy conservation program for immediate savings to residents. Reopen the public pool. End handouts to developers. Put that money toward helping homeowners. Clean up Dixie Highway with better CRA small business grants. Beautify our public parks and public areas with native landscaping. Spend road funds fairly and make sure we have good traffic calming. Bring back community policing. Put city funds into expanded recreation programs and into longer library hours. Some of the tools: I bring compassion. I care and work hard to understand all parts of our community. I listen, sometimes in multiple languages. I'm very good at listening to a wide range of people, all walks of life. I enjoy doing that. Analysis and problem solving. I'm a scientist. That's my lifelong training, is to look for facts, commit to facts. I also have been noted in my career as somebody who is good explaining complex issues in simple, clear ways. We have complex issues in our city with the utilities, with our diversity. Sometimes that needs some help with it. My own personal multicultural life experience, I think, gives me a broader perspective and a way of having broader empathy for different parts of it. Commitment to facts. And then there's passion. I really care about this city. I've been here a long time. I will fight for it. I will make sure that we stick to the facts, defend them, and make sure that we have COVID vaccines accessible to all parts of our community, taking into account mobility issues that are out there. So I would be honored to serve you, and I thank you for your vote. Christopher McVoy.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you all very much for being concise and polite and punctual. I think it went pretty well.
Thank you. Thank you for your moderating.